A blind man stands at a busy intersection, unaware his wallet just fell from his pocket. Dozens of people walk past it. Some glance down, some hesitate, but only one person stops, a single father in worn work boots who's already late picking up his son. What Marcus Webb does next doesn't just surprise the millionaire, it changes both their lives in ways neither could have predicted. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We'd love seeing how far our stories travel. The wallet hit the sidewalk with a soft thud that was immediately swallowed by the noise of downtown Seattle at rush hour. Adrian Castellanos didn't hear it fall. He couldn't have, not over the symphony of car horns, distant sirens, the hiss of bus brakes, and the endless footsteps of people hurrying past. He stood at the corner of 5th and Pike, his white cane tapping a familiar rhythm against the concrete, waiting for the walk signal. The intersection was one he knew well, part of his daily route from his office back to his penthouse apartment. 3 years of walking this same path had turned it into muscle memory. Each crack in the sidewalk, each slight grade change, each sound marker carefully cataloged in his mind. What Adrian didn't know was that his wallet, genuine Italian leather containing 4 credit cards, his driver's license before he lost his sight, and $800 in cash, was now lying on the ground 3 feet behind him. Marcus Webb saw it happen. He was half a block away, walking fast because he was already 10 minutes late picking up his 7-year-old son Cameron from aftercare. His shift at the construction site had run long, again, and he was still wearing his dusty work clothes, his steel-toed boots leaving faint dirt tracks on the sidewalk. Marcus watched the wallet fall from the blind man's pocket as he adjusted his briefcase. He saw it hit the ground, saw the man continue walking, completely unaware. Marcus stopped.
He should have kept walking. He was late. Cameron would be worried. The aftercare program charged $1 per minute after 6 o'clock, and he was already cutting it close on this week's budget. Every minute mattered. But the wallet was just lying there, and the blind man was moving away, his cane tapping steadily as he crossed the street. Marcus looked around. At least 20 people were within sight of the wallet. Surely someone else would... A businessman in an expensive suit walked past it without breaking stride. A woman in yoga clothes stepped over it. A teenager glanced down, paused for half a second, then kept walking while looking at his phone. Marcus moved forward, weaving through the crowd, and picked up the wallet. It was heavy. Quality leather, the kind that probably cost more than Marcus made in a week. He opened it and felt his stomach drop. The cash alone was more than he had in his bank account. The credit cards were black, the kind reserved for people who didn't worry about credit limits. There was a business card tucked in one slot. Adrian Castellanos, CEO, Castellanos Industries. Marcus looked up. The blind man was already across the intersection, moving with surprising confidence despite his disability. In another few seconds, he'd be around the corner and gone. Every practical instinct Marcus had told him to pocket the cash and throw the wallet in a trash can. $800 would cover Cameron's aftercare for months, would buy the new shoes his son needed, the ones Marcus had been putting off because rent was due, would give them breathing room, just a little, in a life that felt like constant financial suffocation. His hands tightened on the wallet. Then he thought about Cameron's face when Marcus had explained last month why they couldn't afford the school field trip. The careful way his 7-year-old had nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. The way Cameron had told his classmates he didn't want to go anyway, protecting his father's pride with a lie. What kind of man did Marcus want his son to become? He started running. Sir, wait!" Marcus's voice was rough from a day of breathing concrete dust. He dodged through pedestrians, his boots pounding the sidewalk. "Sir, with the cane!" Adrian stopped, turning his head slightly, trying to locate the voice in the chaos of street noise. Marcus caught up to him, breathing hard. "You dropped your wallet, back at the intersection." For a moment, Adrian didn't move. Then his free hand went to his jacket pocket, finding it empty. Thank you. I didn't even realize." Marcus pressed the wallet into Adrian's hand. "Everything's still inside. I checked to make sure it was yours." Adrian's fingers moved over the wallet with practiced efficiency, feeling the familiar texture, the slight wear on one corner. He opened it, his hands finding the cash first, then the cards. "You're serious? You didn't take anything." "Why would I take anything? It's not mine." The question seemed to genuinely confuse Adrian. His expression, what Marcus could see of it behind expensive sunglasses, shifted into something like disbelief. Most people would have. Most people do. He held out his hand. "Adrian Castellanos." Marcus Webb. Marcus shook his hand, noting the firm grip, the calluses that suggested this businessman wasn't just a desk worker. "Look, I'm sorry to run, but I'm late picking up my son from—" "Wait." Adrian's hand moved to his wallet again, pulling out several bills. "Please, take this, as a thank you." Marcus looked at the money, at least $200, and felt something twist in his chest. "I don't want a reward. I just did the right thing."
Most people don't do the right thing. Adrian's voice was firm. "Please, let me thank you properly." Returning someone's wallet isn't something you need to pay for. Marcus was already backing away. "I'm glad you got it back. I really do have to go." He left Adrian standing on the sidewalk, still holding out the money, looking confused and somehow lonely in a way that had nothing to do with being blind. Marcus ran the 4 blocks to Cameron's school, arriving at 6:14 p.m., $14 in late fees he couldn't afford. But as he watched his son's face light up when he saw him, Marcus knew he'd made the right choice. Both choices, returning the wallet and refusing the reward. "You're late, Dad," Cameron said, but without accusation, just observation. "I know, buddy. I'm sorry. Work ran over." Cameron took his hand as they walked to their bus stop. "It's okay. Mrs. Hernandez let me help clean up the art supplies, so I didn't even notice." Marcus squeezed his son's hand, love and guilt mixing in equal measure. Cameron was always so understanding, so patient. A 7-year-old shouldn't have to be that understanding about his father being late. "Hey, Dad." Cameron looked up at him as they waited for the bus. "Did something good happen today? You look, I don't know, different." "Different how?" "Less worried, maybe." Marcus thought about the wallet, about the choice he'd made, about the $800 he'd held in his hands and given back without hesitation. "Yeah, buddy, something good happened. I'll tell you about it at dinner." Adrian Castellanos sat in his office the next morning, turning Marcus Webb's business card over in his fingers. Except it wasn't a business card. It was a receipt that had fallen out of Marcus's pocket during their brief interaction. A receipt from a grocery store dated 2 days ago. Milk, bread, peanut butter, and generic mac and cheese. Total, $11.47. Adrian had found it in his jacket pocket that evening, had run it through his document scanner with text-to-speech software. The detail that stuck with him, the payment method was marked as SNAP benefits. Food stamps. A man using government food assistance had found a wallet containing $800 and returned every penny. Adrian had built his fortune on understanding human nature, on predicting behavior, identifying patterns, exploiting the gap between what people said and what they actually did. In his experience, people were fundamentally self-interested. They made moral choices when it was convenient, when the cost of dishonesty outweighed the benefit. But Marcus Webb had made a different choice. "Mr. Castellanos?" His assistant Elena's voice came through the intercom. "Your 9 o'clock is here." "Cancel it," Elena said. "And, Elena, I need you to find someone for me." By noon, he had a file on Marcus Webb. Age 32, single father, widowed 4 years ago when his wife died in a car accident, leaving him with a 3-year-old son. Worked construction, currently employed by Hendricks Building Company. Lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood that was politely termed transitional and more accurately termed struggling. No criminal record, actually paid his bills on time despite barely making ends meet.
volunteered 3 Saturdays a month at a homeless shelter. The picture that emerged was of a man who somehow maintained integrity in circumstances that would have broken most people. Adrian sat back in his chair, thinking. He'd lost his sight 3 years ago to a degenerative condition that had taken his vision gradually over 18 months. He'd adapted, learned to navigate the world without
Sight, learned to run his company despite the disability, learned to function. But he'd also learned something darker about human nature during that transition. He'd learned that people treated him differently now. Some were overly solicitous, practically infantilizing him. Others became dishonest, assuming his disability made him an easy target. He'd had employees try to embezzle from him, assuming he wouldn't notice. Had so-called friends disappear, uncomfortable with his blindness. Had family members suggest he step down from his company, that he let someone more capable take over. The wallet incident wasn't the first time someone had stolen from him. It was just the most recent in a long line of people who saw his blindness as an opportunity. Marcus Webb had seen an opportunity too, but he'd chosen differently. Adrian picked up his phone. "Elena, I want to offer someone a job." Marcus was on lunch break, eating a sandwich he'd made that morning, peanut butter and jelly, same as Cameron would have at school, when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Marcus Webb?" A woman's voice, professional, courteous. "Yeah, that's me." "My name is Elena Torres. I'm calling on behalf of Adrian Castellanos. Do you remember meeting him?" Marcus nearly dropped his sandwich. "The blind guy? I mean, yes, I remember. Is everything okay? Was there a problem with the wallet?" "Quite the opposite." Elena's voice warmed slightly. "Mr. Castellanos would like to meet with you. Are you available tomorrow at 10 a.m.? "I work tomorrow. I can't just take time off." "He's prepared to compensate you for your time. Would $200 for an hour of your time be acceptable?"
Marcus blinked. $200 was more than a full day's wages. Why does he want to meet with me? He'd prefer to discuss that in person. Will you come? Marcus thought about Cameron's shoes, about the aftercare fees he was still behind on, about the fact that their car needed new tires. An hour of his time for $200 seemed impossible to refuse. "Okay, where?" Elena Torres gave him an address in downtown Seattle, a building Marcus recognized as one of the expensive high-rises he passed sometimes on his way to job sites. The next morning, Marcus called in sick to work, the first time he'd done so in 8 months, and put on his only dress pants and button-down shirt. Cameron had been excited when Marcus explained where he was going. "Is he going to give you a reward now?" Cameron had asked. "Because you should take it this time, Dad. We need new shoes." "We'll see, buddy. I'm not expecting anything." But sitting in the elevator up to the 30th floor of Castellanos Tower, Marcus felt hope flutter nervously in his chest. Hope was dangerous. He'd learned that the hard way, but he couldn't quite kill it. Elena Torres met him in the reception area. She was in her 40s, efficient, kind-eyed. "Mr. Webb, thank you for coming. Mr. Castellanos is ready for you." She led him through a hallway lined with art Marcus couldn't begin to appreciate, into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. Adrian Castellanos stood at those windows, or rather faced them, since Marcus realized the view meant nothing to him. "Mr. Webb," Adrian turned as Elena announced him. "Thank you for coming." "Call me Marcus." He moved into the office, unsure what to do with his hands. "Your assistant said you wanted to meet." "I did. Please, sit." Adrian moved to his desk with the same confident navigation Marcus had noticed on the street. He didn't fumble, didn't hesitate. He knew exactly where everything was. Marcus sat in the leather chair across from Adrian's desk, feeling distinctly out of place. "I want to offer you a job," Adrian said without preamble. Marcus blinked. "A job? Doing what?" "Being my personal assistant. My companion, really. Someone who can help me navigate situations where my blindness is a disadvantage. Someone I can trust." "You don't know me. How do you know you can trust me?"
You returned my wallet with $800 inside. You refused a reward despite clearly needing the money. That tells me more about your character than a resume ever could." Marcus shook his head slowly. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not qualified for whatever kind of assistant job you're talking about. I do construction work. I barely finished high school." "I don't need your education. I need your integrity." Adrian leaned forward. "Let me be blunt, Marcus. Since losing my sight, I've been stolen from, lied to, and underestimated constantly. I've had employees embezzle, business partners try to push me out, family members suggest I'm no longer capable of running my own company. I need someone around me who sees me as a person first, not as a disability to exploit. And you think I'm that person because I did one decent thing? I think you're that person because you did a decent thing when it cost you, when keeping the money would have helped you and your son." Adrian's expression was serious. "I know about your financial situation, Marcus. I know you're struggling, and yet you made the harder choice." Marcus felt a flash of anger. "You investigated me?" "I did."
That's a violation of privacy. It is. Adrian didn't apologize. I'm a businessman, Marcus. I gather information. It's what I do. But I'm also offering you a solution to your problems. The job pays $80,000 a year plus benefits, including full health insurance for you and your son. The number hit Marcus like physical impact. 80,000. He currently made 32,000. That's insane, Marcus managed. I'm not worth that much. Let me decide what you're worth. Adrian's voice was firm. You'd work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Your job would be to accompany me to meetings, help me navigate unfamiliar environments, read documents I need processed quickly, drive me places my driver isn't available. Think of it as being my eyes in situations where eyes matter. You could hire anyone for that, someone with actual qualifications. I could, but I don't trust anyone. I trust you. Adrian paused. You have a son, correct? Cameron, age 7? Marcus stiffened. Yes. The job includes flexible hours. If you need to leave early for school events, take him to doctor appointments, whatever a parent needs to do, that's fine. Your son comes first. I understand that. The offer was impossible. It was too much money, too good to be true, too perfect for his situation, which meant there had to be a catch. Why? Asked Marcus. Really, why me? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When you lose your sight, you learn to read people differently, through their voices, their words, their actions. Most people say kind things but act selfishly. You acted kindly without saying anything at all. That's rare. That's valuable. He leaned back. I'm offering you this job because I need someone I can trust in a world full of people I can't. If you're not interested, I understand. But think about it. Think about what this could mean for you and your son. Marcus thought about Cameron's shoes, about the school field trip his son had pretended not to want, about the tiny apartment they lived in, and the way Cameron never complained, even though Marcus knew other kids made fun of where they lived. Can I think about it? Marcus's voice was rough. Of course, take the weekend. Here's my personal number. Adrian pulled a card from his desk, his fingers finding it with practiced ease. Call me Monday with your decision. Marcus took the card, his hand shaking slightly. Thank you for the offer. And for the $200 for coming here today. That's still happening, right? For the first time, Adrian smiled. That and more. Elena has an envelope for you. Consider it a thank you for returning the wallet, since you wouldn't take one before. The envelope Elena handed Marcus on his way out contained $1,000. Marcus didn't tell Cameron about the job offer right away. He sat with it over the weekend, turning it over in his mind, trying to find the flaw, the catch, the reason this was too good to be true. Saturday afternoon, while Cameron was at a friend's birthday party, Marcus called the one person he trusted to give him honest advice, his late wife's sister, Teresa.
A blind millionaire wants to pay you $80,000 to be his assistant because you returned his wallet? I know it sounds crazy. It sounds suspicious. Rich people don't just hand out jobs like that, Marcus. What does he really want? I think he's lonely, and I think he's been burned by people who saw his weakness as weakness. That doesn't mean he's a good person. That doesn't mean this job is legitimate.
I looked him up. Adrian Castellanos. His company is real, successful. He's legitimate. Teresa was quiet. You want to take it. I want Cameron to have the opportunities I can't give him on a construction worker's salary. This money, it changes everything. A better apartment, better school district, college savings, everything. But what if there's a catch? What if he's, I don't know, crazy, dangerous? He's blind, Teresa, and he's offering me a lifeline. I'd be stupid not to at least try. After they hung up, Marcus found Cameron in his room, doing homework at a desk that was too small for him, that he'd been using since he was 4. "Hey, buddy, can we talk?" Cameron looked up, immediately alert to the serious tone. "Am I in trouble?" "No, nothing like that." Marcus sat on Cameron's bed, the springs squeaking under his weight. "What would you think about moving? To a bigger apartment, in a better neighborhood?" Cameron's eyes went wide. "Really? Can we afford that?" "Maybe. I got offered a new job, different from construction, working for a man who needs help because he's blind." "Like a helper?" "Exactly like that. It pays more, a lot more, which means we could do things we can't do now. Better place to live, maybe save for Disney World." "Disney World?" Cameron's voice cracked with excitement. "For real?" "For real, if I take the job and it works out." Cameron launched himself at Marcus, hugging him tight. "You should take it, Dad. You should definitely take it."
Holding his son, feeling the fierce trust in that embrace, Marcus made his decision. Monday morning, Marcus called Adrian's personal number. "I'll take the job. When do I start?" "Tomorrow." Adrian's voice held satisfaction. 8 a.m. Come to my office. We'll start with something simple." The first week was an adjustment. Marcus found himself in a world he'd never experienced. Board meetings where millions of dollars were discussed casually, business lunches at restaurants where a single meal cost more than his weekly grocery budget, conversations about markets and acquisitions that went over his head. But Adrian was patient. He explained things without condescension. And slowly, Marcus began to understand that his value wasn't in understanding business, it was in the things Adrian couldn't do himself, like noticing when someone was lying. Adrian had learned to detect dishonesty through voice inflection, but Marcus could see body language, facial expressions. In one meeting, Marcus whispered to Adrian that the contractor they were considering was uncomfortable with the timeline. Marcus had noticed the man's fidgeting, the way his eyes kept darting to the clock. Adrian had pressed for details, and the contractor had admitted he was overcommitted, couldn't deliver on time. They'd avoided a costly mistake because Marcus had noticed what Adrian couldn't see. "You're good at this," Adrian said as they left that meeting. "I just noticed he looked nervous." "That's exactly what I need. Eyes I can trust." Cameron adjusted to the new schedule too. Marcus was home by 5:30 every evening now, in time for dinner, for homework help, for bedtime stories. They'd moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood, not fancy, but safe, clean, with a school nearby that Cameron loved. For the first time in 4 years, Marcus felt like he could breathe, like he wasn't drowning in bills and worry, like he could be the father Cameron deserved. But more surprisingly, Marcus found himself becoming friends with Adrian. It started small, coffee conversations before meetings where they talked about things other than work. Adrian asking about Cameron, Marcus asking about Adrian's life before he lost his sight. Shared lunches where they argued good-naturedly about sports, about politics, about everything. "You treat me like a person," Adrian said one afternoon, about 3 months into Marcus's employment.
not like a disability. You don't know how rare that is. You are a person. The blindness is just one part of you. Most people don't see it that way. They see the cane and the sunglasses, and that becomes my entire identity. Marcus understood that. After his wife died, people had treated him as the widower, defined entirely by loss. It was exhausting being reduced to one dimension of yourself. For what it's worth, Marcus said, you're also kind of arrogant, weirdly funny, and terrible at remembering to eat lunch. Adrian laughed. Thank you. That's the most normal thing anyone said to me in months. The trouble started 6 months in. Marcus noticed it first in the board meetings, the way certain executives talked over Adrian, made decisions without his input, dismissed his concerns. It was subtle. These were professionals who knew better than to be overtly disrespectful, but it was there. Then Marcus overheard a conversation he wasn't meant to hear. He'd gone back to Adrian's office to retrieve a forgotten folder when he heard voices in the conference room next door. The door was cracked open.
Can't continue with the blind man running the company. It's embarrassing. Shareholders are getting nervous. The voice belonged to Richard Castellanos, Adrian's uncle and the CFO. He's still competent. A woman's voice, Diane Chen, the COO. Is he, or does that assistant of his do all the real work now? Richard's tone was dismissive. We need to move forward with the succession plan. Get Adrian to step down, take an advisory role. Let someone with full capacity run things. You mean let you run things, Diane said. I mean let someone who can actually see run things. Adrian's a liability now. Marcus stood frozen, rage building in his chest. These people who worked for Adrian, who owed their positions to him, were plotting to remove him because of his blindness. He grabbed the folder and left quietly, his mind racing. That evening, Marcus told Adrian what he'd heard. Adrian's face went carefully blank. I see, or rather I don't, which is apparently the problem. You're not seriously considering stepping down. What choice do I have? They're right, Marcus. I can't see. I'm limited in ways a CEO shouldn't be. That's bullshit. Marcus's voice was fierce. You're brilliant. You understand this business better than anyone. The only limitation you have is that you can't see, and that's what people like me are for. You hired me to be your eyes. Let me do my job. It's not that simple. It is that simple. Your uncle wants your company. He's using your blindness as an excuse, but this is about power and money, not capability. Marcus leaned forward. You gave me a chance when I was nobody, when I was just some construction worker who returned your wallet. You saw something in me worth investing in. I'm asking you to see that in yourself, too.
Adrian was quiet for a long moment. What do you suggest? Fight. Show them you're not going anywhere, and let me help you do it. The board meeting 2 weeks later was tense from the start. Richard Castellanos had called for a vote on Adrian's future with the company. The motion was carefully worded, suggesting Adrian transition to a more appropriate role, given his health challenges. But everyone knew what it really meant. Adrian sat at the head of the table, Marcus beside him. Around them, 12 board members waited. Before we vote, Adrian said, his voice calm, I'd like to present something. Marcus pulled up a presentation on the screen. For the next 30 minutes, Adrian walked the board through the company's performance under his leadership. Revenue growth, market expansion, successful acquisitions. Every metric showed improvements since he'd taken over as CEO 3 years ago, including the time after he'd lost his sight. My vision loss hasn't impacted my ability to lead. If anything, it's made me better. I've learned to listen more carefully, to trust my team, to focus on strategy rather than getting lost in visual details. I've surrounded myself with people I trust, including Marcus, whose eyes and insights have been invaluable. With all due respect, Richard interrupted, you're proving our point. You need constant assistance. That's not leadership, that's dependence. Every CEO depends on their team, Marcus spoke up, surprising himself with his boldness. Adrian depends on me to see. You depend on your analysts to crunch numbers. Diane depends on the operations team to execute. Leadership isn't about doing everything yourself. It's about knowing your strengths and building a team around your weaknesses. And who are you to lecture us on leadership? Richard's tone was condescending. You're an assistant, a former construction worker playing at being a businessman.
I'm someone who sees what you refuse to see, Marcus said evenly. That Adrian Castellanos is the best thing that's happened to this company. And if you force him out, you're not protecting the company, you're destroying it. The vote was close, 7-5 in Adrian's favor. He kept his position, but the message was clear. This wasn't over. After the meeting, Adrian sat in his office, exhausted but victorious. "Thank you," he said to Marcus, "for speaking up, for fighting. You gave me a job when I needed one. You trusted me when you had no reason to. That means something. It means more than you know." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "I was wrong about people. I thought everyone was selfish, dishonest. But you've proven me wrong. You and Cameron, you've reminded me that good people exist. We're not special. We're just people trying to do right. That is special, Marcus. That's everything." The annual shareholder meeting had just ended. Adrian stood at the podium, having just announced record profits and a major acquisition that would double the company's size. In the audience, Marcus sat with Cameron, now 9 years old, and trying to look mature in the suit Marcus had bought him for the occasion. After the meeting, as people filed out, Cameron tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Dad, can I ask Mr. Adrian something?" "Sure, buddy. Let's go." They found Adrian in his office, Elena organizing papers while he dictated notes into his phone. "Mr. Adrian?" Cameron's voice was polite, slightly nervous. Adrian turned, a smile spreading across his face. "Cameron, how'd you like your first shareholder meeting?" "It was long, but good." Cameron took a breath. "I wanted to ask, my class is doing career day next month. Would you come and talk about running a company and about being blind?" Adrian's expression softened. "I'd be honored." "Cool, because I keep telling everyone my dad works for a blind millionaire and they don't believe me." "Cameron," Marcus said, mortified. But Adrian laughed. "You tell them it's true, and tell them that blind millionaire only got to keep being a millionaire because your dad taught him that asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom." Later, driving home in the car, Adrian had insisted on buying Marcus. "You're representing my company now. You need reliable transportation." Cameron was quiet. "Dad," he said finally, "do you ever think about that day when you found the wallet?" "Sometimes." "What would have happened if you'd kept the money?" Marcus thought about the question, about the $800 that could have solved so many immediate problems, about the job he wouldn't have been offered, about the friendship that wouldn't have formed. "We would have had money for a little while," Marcus said honestly, "but we wouldn't have had this, the apartment, the stability, the future. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you in the moment, but pays you back in ways you can't imagine." "That's deep, Dad." "Yeah? Well, I'm a deep guy." Cameron laughed. "No, you're not." Fair point. That night, after Cameron was asleep, Marcus stood at the window of their apartment, a real 2-bedroom with a view of the city, in a neighborhood where kids played outside safely. He thought about the wallet, about the choice he'd made, about how one decision had cascaded into everything good in his life now. His phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. "Thank you for speaking at the meeting today, for the past 2 years, for being the person I needed exactly when I needed them." Marcus typed back, "You did the same for me." And it was true. Adrian had needed someone he could trust in a world that had betrayed him.
Marcus had needed someone to believe he was worth more than his circumstances suggested. They'd saved each other, not through grand gestures or dramatic moments, but through showing up, through integrity, through the quiet, consistent choice to do right by each other. Sometimes the best things in life come from the smallest decisions, from choosing to return a wallet instead of keeping it, from choosing to trust a stranger with a job offer that seems impossible, from choosing every single day to be someone worth trusting. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those small choices echo outward in ways that transform everything. If this story reminded you that integrity matters, that small choices can change everything, and that good people still exist in this world, share it with someone who needs that reminder. Subscribe for more stories about the power of doing what's right, even when it costs you everything.